So, Mr. Keith, Rediker, sorry. If you'll just bring us up to speed here.
Yeah, so last meeting we kind of went through kind of the details of how it was going to be used, when it was going to be used, so forth and so on. And it's created some obvious community concerns regarding several different issues, and I just wanted to address those real quick. So what I plan to do with this, and the whole intent of this, is to essentially have a backstop certified by the state, a shooting area certified by the state, to obtain a certification to teach the Tennessee Enhanced Carry Permit class. The state requires a range qualification with that course. It is not negotiable. You have to have 4 hours of range time. State limits to 5 students at a time. So this isn't anything that's going to have 20 to 30 people out there shooting at one time. I also requested this that I was only going to use it 2 days out of the month. It was not going to be open to the public for public access. It will have a locked gate, fence around it. County setback requirements require 300 foot off to each property line. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that's correct. The state only requires 180, so that you guys will exceed that requirement. Absolutely no rifles or shotguns can or will be used if it is a state certified handgun range only facility. State county requirements, you guys control and regulate what can happen with it. I was just briefly informed that a lot of folks here are concerned that later on down the road, concerned about expansion. And with the job that I have now, I have no time to teach more than 2 classes a month. I have no desire to expand this into anything or have that property rezoned. And I'm pretty sure that any type of expansion to use commercially would require a rezoning. And I have no plans to do that. The furthest distance a shooter will shoot from a target is 7 yards, 23 feet. 23 feet in front of a 12-foot tall, 4-foot thick backstop with 8-inch railroad ties behind it. From the location of the proposed range, the elevation difference between where it is at and the concern of where the cemetery is approximately 15 foot 3 inches, I believe is what the survey said. And the range in relation to the cemetery is anywhere from 500 to 700 feet. So it's not, right up next to the cemetery or shooting over the cemetery. Let's see, shooters will not shoot any more 7 yards, like I said, 23 feet. We'll have first aid kits on site, access for EMS, fire, police if needed. Their state requires a phone readily accessible. State provides range owner, landowner, and instructor liability waivers to release any and all parties. The state only requires a $300,000 liability insurance policy. I have $1 million for locked-in affinity insurance. Cannot be used in inclement weather. And state doesn't require any side berms, but it will have 4-foot thick side berms, 8 feet wide as well. As it sits right now, and I'm sure everyone is aware, I'm not going to be using this to teach every class I have. This is just twice a month, handgun carry class, take 5 students out there, put them in front of a target with a pile of dirt, let them qualify, go home. Lock the gate when we leave. And there's been some questions asked, what's stopping me from giving the key to the gate to someone else, opening it up to people, that I know or whatever, and that's quite simple. That's called common sense. I mean, you wouldn't give a key to your house to somebody. I mean, there's just too much liability there. Talked with several of the adjacent property owners. Mr. Jeff Jernigan, to be a fact, talked to him. That's kind of berm type that we're looking at. A little bit different, side berms on that, but that is what we're proposing right there. We was actually out shooting the other day, handgun rounds, and Miss Jernigan's house, Miss Susan Jernigan, yeah, right here. Her house is approximately 900 to 1,000 feet away from where we were shooting. And she said, quote, "I never heard the first shot fired back there," and that she knew we were back there. And as close as she lived to it, she never heard the first thing. So living that close to where the range is going to be, I told her I shot a total of 38 rounds using a 9mm and a 10mm carbine that I have. She said she's in the house almost 24 hours a day. I'd be more than happy to pass this around to you. Let you look at it if you'd like. But that's true. You can pass that around as well. So, and again, at no time is this going to be open, come pay me $10, shoot all day, whatever you want to shoot. That is not the intent of this. I know some of the ranges here, and I've spoke with Mr. Terry up in Cross Plains about his range. I mean, my goodness, he has got one heck of a facility up there. I mean, rifles, shotguns, you name it. And this is limited to handgun rounds only. And I can't, for the life of me, see a handgun round going through 4 feet of dirt, 8-inch railroad ties, and then following the terrain 15 foot in elevation and hitting a tombstone at that cemetery. If you have any of those handgun rounds, I'll buy every one you have. I have reached out to the community and some other folks local as well with a online petition. I've got 108 signatures with comments and approvals on that. You're more than welcome to have a look at those as well. Both county commissioners, Ms. Faye Stubblefield and Mike Doors, did speak with them. They are in approval, signed the petition, and I have had, as far as the folks that I've spoken to, nothing but, we need this, additional training, because there's, 40% increase in handgun ownership, or 30% increase with 40% of them being new gun owners. I mean, there's a need for training. With it being state certified, it's just going to be, it's just simple. It's going to be safer for everybody around there. I'll have to abide by all state and county regulations. If at any time those regulations are stepped out of, I'm pretty sure you guys won't hesitate to step in and say something. Considering the setback requirements that the county has in place, I'm not going to have much room to work with anyhow. So with the question about expansion, there's my answer right there. 300-foot setbacks off each property line. 2 lanes is about all I can handle. So I don't have room for expansion.
Where are you going to hold the written part of these classes?
So I've got several locations that I'm currently working on. Highland Crest Volunteer State Community College has reached out to me. They have requested that I teach my handgun carry class at their facility, as well as an active shooter class. But for those classes, we will use the Guns and Leather range. Currently, they have an agreement with Guns and Leather out of Hendersonville, and they're currently trying to get an agreement with Guns and Leather in Greenbrier to use use that range for that. As far as other classes, I am a member of a fire department that I could use a conference room there. Springfield Airport's got a conference room. I mean, there's hotels that's got conference rooms. I mean, I've got options.
How long does that class usually last?
So you have to have, for the enhanced carry class, you have to have 4 hours of classroom time with 4 hours of range time.
And range time, those 4 hours wouldn't be totally shooting.
Not 4 hours constantly. No, not at all. 4 hours of range time is once the student qualifies and they make a passing score on the qualification, they're done. The 4 hours is just a window. With 2 lanes open, I mean, at max, I can only have 2 people shooting, obviously. Personally, I don't like to have more than 1 team shooting at one time, especially if I don't know the person. With all the state regs and everything that I have to go by, there's too much liability for me at least, to have more than 5. And that's 5 or 6 is what they set it at.
How many rounds would each student typically shoot? Or
We asked them to bring 50 rounds. 50 rounds, especially if they've never shot before. And typically a 9mm, or if they've never shot before, a 22, a little handgun like that or something. 50 rounds. Hardly ever would you use that many. Well, the only other thing that I have, there was questions regarding my state instructor license. Been some rumors going around that I do not have one because it couldn't be found online. There it is, from the state of Tennessee, certified through the USCCA, and $1 million liability policy through them, as well as Lockton Affinity. And I did ask my insurance agent through Lockton Affinity, the immediate adjacent property owners can be listed as additional insured, since they do have interest and voice on opinions on the range. They can be listed as additional insured to the policy. And the state also has state gives out a waiver.
These are for the...
That's for each applicant, must sign a waiver that releases any and all liability for the landowner, the firearms instructor, and the range, whoever owns the range, which obviously would be one and the same for me. I believe there were some questions raised last time as well, in the last meeting, about needing a traffic study done and all that. And I think we had talked that, 2 days out of the month, 5 students at a time wouldn't constitute a traffic study. And as far as noise goes, no county noise ordinances, so a noise study wouldn't be really, needed, to my understanding. But I have no problem having that done. If they so desire. Like I said, Miss Jernigan living that close and saying that she didn't hear anything, that's...
I understand this property belongs to...
It's a uncle, family member. He's given permission to use it. And we had decided that we was going to use the property back earlier in the year to shoot at anyways, if we put targets up, just go out there and have some sports shooting done, skeet shooting, whatever. And I had the idea that I wanted to get firearms instructor rating, and so I went and got that. We got permission. I got permission to put a range on it once we get it approved. So that is it. That is what it's going to be used for. Limited use 2 days a month, 5 students at a time, between the hours of 12 and 4 on a Saturday. No Sunday shooting. If it conflicts with any church schedule, if they're having a revival meeting or something like that at Hopewell Baptist, I'd be more than happy to work with anybody around there. If there's any family gatherings going on with the immediate neighbors, I have no trouble working with them to hold another class somewhere else at another range or whatever. I have no trouble with that. I just want the option to be available to me. If I need it, it's there for me to use.
All right, thank you. Does anybody on the board have any questions?
Yeah,
Any more questions?
would there ever be a time that you were doing any personal shooting out there? Or is it just going to
Nope.
sole use?
I do not plan to personally shoot out there. The state comes out and certifies it with handgun rounds only. I have shot enough handgun rounds this past year that I believe I'm caught up for about 10 years. So I have no desire for that. I've got another place that I shoot at personally with family. If it's certified and approved, it will only be used for that class, or those classes.
And I think there was, in some of the stuff I read, there was concern about lead contamination. Am I understanding right that the state requires that?
So lead abatement, so pretty much what I'm going to do is, and you guys, I'll pass the picture around, you guys seen the square box. And the bottom of that box is going to be a grate, the screened grate. And so you pretty much take the forks retractor, lift it up, shake it through the dirt, and it catches the lead. And then you dispose of it. And then put your sifter back down and backfill it back with dirt. And now we're not talking loose dirt either. This is, the state requires that the 12-foot tall berm, 4-foot thick, and it has to be 4 foot thick at the top, not at the bottom. And that's settled. That's not loose dirt.
Anybody else have any questions? All right, seeing none, does anybody in the audience have any comments for or against this?
I do.
Okay, if you please stand up and state your name and your address.
My name is Becky Wall. I live at 6365 Hopewell Road, where this proposed open-air gun range is being considered. The gun range would be located 300 feet from my backyard. Mr. Redeker says that it's 2,000 feet from my front door, but it is not. Needless to say, I oppose it. I have collected, and you have documentation of the 143 petitions from my neighbors and others concerned about this proposed range. I collected 26 more tonight. Tonight, I am representing 122 Robertson County citizens who are opposed to it. I represent 24 descendants of Jacob Zeck, a Revolutionary War soldier who is buried with 7 of his family members in the Zeck Cemetery located on the property. I represent 9 members of the Charlotte Reeves Robertson chapter of the Daughters of American Revolution who are committed to the preservation of Revolutionary War cemeteries. I represent 44 members of Hopewell Baptist Church and 22 members of Bridge Hill Missionary Baptist Church located less than a half a mile from the proposed range. And I also represent at least one 6-year-old little boy who has been praying every night that Miss Becky does not have to have a gun range close to her house. The people who will be most affected by this gun range do not want it here, and they have said that loud and clear with their signatures on the petition. I know that Mr. Redeker has a lot of petitions on his signatures on his petition, but most of them will not be affected by this range, and most of them are not from Robertson County. There are many reasons why we oppose it: noise, traffic, danger, vandalism, nuisance, decreased property values, and damage to the cemetery. I have mailed each one of you a list of concerns, and I hope you received the packet. and I hope that you had time to take a look at it and review the information. I also provided you with a list of signatories to my petition, and I have added 73 since you got the petitions. I had an updated one that included all of them, but the 26 I collected tonight. I am genuinely concerned with the environmental impact associated with an open air range. I have done my homework and looked at several issues. Soil and water contamination were the first issues I investigated. When I contacted Mr. Bill Murph of the Division of Water Resources for the state of Tennessee, I was surprised that Mr. Redeker would have to submit his plans to their office and request a storm water permit, as all gun ranges are supposed to. Has the board required this prior to approval of this usage exemption? If you have not required it, who will? There may be other federal, state, county, and local regulations that apply to gun ranges. Are you aware of the regulations that he needs to comply with? Is he aware of them? I know about them because I've checked. There may be acreage requirements, air and water pollution criteria, rules for bathrooms, parking lot regulations, handicap access. Who ensures that these are followed? The planning board, the state, or will it fall to the residents of Hopewell Road to see to it that every rule and every regulation is adhered to? We are prepared to do just that, but we should not have to. If you are approving such a business, it should be your responsibility to assure that everything is done properly. Have you done this? Mr. Redeker himself may not even be a Robertson County citizen. According to a Google search, he lives in Montgomery County. Or does he live in Sumner County? His business is listed in Montgomery County. That county will reap any benefits from that business. He says that there's no charge to his students for use of the firing range, but he does charge them for the handgun safety class instruction in Montgomery County. And the firing range is a portion of his instruction. So his students do pay for that. It is a requirement before they can get their permit. Mr. Redeker complains that I'm spreading false information. I'm not. I'm concerned that no information until tonight has been presented about Mr. Redeker's credentials. Is he licensed by the state as a handgun instructor? He says that he's licensed by the USCCA. I'm a member of the USCCA, and I could be certified to teach. Any member can. But his name does not appear on the Tennessee Handgun Safety Schools roster. Does he have a business license? Has anyone done a background check on him as required by the Tennessee Department of Safety? Will anyone? He says that this board shot down the traffic study that was suggested at the last meeting. Really? I didn't hear that. He also says that one of the board members said of a noise study that was suggested that the county doesn't have a noise ordinance, so we can't do a noise study. And even if we did, it would be a waste of time because with no ordinance in place, there's nothing we can do, even if it gets loud. I didn't hear this either. He said that individuals from 3 adjoining properties signed his petition. His words, the other 2 didn't show up and couldn't be contacted. However, he could have contacted them in the same manner that he contacted the others as well. And one of them, well, we ain't even going to go there. That's what he said. He says that the people making the complaints against his gun range do not have property touching his property. But just because we do not touch his property does not mean it does not affect us. Mr. Redeker says he has $1 million worth of insurance coverage for this range. I'm only asking for documentation of this. I never questioned it. But how can he have this type of policy if this is still in the planning phase? Has anyone seen the policy? Does his uncle, Mr. Warren, realize that if someone is injured because of this range, they could sue him as property owner for damages. At the last meeting of this board, Mr. Rediker threatened that he would come out to the property to fire any kind of weapon, anytime, all the time, if this exemption is not approved. He asks, how loud can a 9mm be? Well, he has made good on his threat at least 4 times that I'm aware of in the last week. He has invited anyone to come and fire with him via his Facebook site, and then he brags about it. And a 9mm is loud enough that I heard him out there every time he came out there to shoot. What is Mr. Rediker's future plan for this range? He said he doesn't have any plans. But what if eventually he wants to expand that business? Maybe he wants to do it more often. Would he consider an enclosed gun range? Does he plan to use the range for his own personal use? Will he allow his friends to use the range all the time, anytime? Has he indicated that he will agree, as he has indicated, he will agree to some limitations for the range, but do those limitations apply when he is not using it for his business? I have a neighbor who has 2 small children, and she is very concerned. Her property touches his. She is very concerned about the inherent danger of a gun range. She is not even sure that she can continue to live there if the range is approved. And I have provided her letter to the board to you tonight. What do you think this will do to her property values? Mr. Rediker stated that 3 ladies in the tax assessor's office said it would not affect the surrounding properties. But I have spoken to a couple of real estate agents, and they could not assure me that our property values would not be adversely affected. Then he made his threat via a live feed on his Facebook page, Robertson County United. These are his words, and I quote, "As it stands right now, we can go out there, invite anybody we want, have as many people as we want, shoot any caliber, any round, rifle, shotgun, handgun, it doesn't matter, as much as we want, whenever we want. If we want to go out there 7 days a week and shoot, we can. There's not a damn thing you can do about it." That's his language, not mine. "We don't have to have a backstop put up. We don't have to follow safe shooting practices. We can just show up and start shooting, and it'd be perfectly legal." So I'm giving her 2 options. I know this was directed at me. 2 days a month, handgun rounds only, 5 people at a time, 4 hours. That is 8 hours a month shooting, 10 total people. That seems very reasonable. Or leave it like it is, and we can get people together out there and reenact World War II. Either way, it's going to end in gunfire. That decision was made earlier in the year that we were going to use this property to practice, whenever, wherever, whatever, and then I had the idea to turn it into a certified gun range, and I was given approval and consent to use it as that. And so the state inspector, I talked to him the other day, and he said Robertson County has been anti-gun as long as he can remember, and that there hasn't been an outdoor range approved in the county in several years. I, and probably at least half of the people that signed, are not against the Second Amendment. In fact, we're all legal gun owners. I'll continue with his rant. So if I had this range, it would only be used, they would only hear gunfire 2 days out of the month. If they would shut up and mind their own business, it would be a lot safer for us to have a certified range that requires a backstop, controlled points of ingress, limited to 5 students, handgun only, and daylight hours of shooting. Or we can leave it like it is, put more people at risk, be a lot louder, lots more traffic going in and out. Kind of doesn't seem like a hard decision to me. So whoever's watching this, share the hell out of it. His language again. I'm trying to I want this to go around to, and hopefully make it over to this neighbor. And yeah, if it gets voted down, the media's gonna get involved, maybe some legal action to follow, I don't know. I do have an attorney that's walking me through the process. So I know Tennessee has a Gun Range Protection Act, and that will be brought up as well. But if you don't want a gun range, a state certified gun range, that's fine. We can still build one. We can still push up a pile of dirt and shoot at it. We can still have a family range. We can just use it a lot more and use any gun we want. So if you're watching this and one of the neighbors who opposes it, you haven't really thought too hard about it, have you? Unquote. I have thought long and hard about this. I hope that you would not want an individual like this man in charge of any gun range in Robertson County. I am sure I don't want him anywhere near me. At the last appeals board meeting, one of your members asked Mr. Redeker if he had other property to consider for his gun range if this exemption was not approved. He indicated that his uncle, Mr. Warren, has property on Henry Road in Cross Plains and that he might allow him to use that. Your board member stated that he didn't want it on Henry Road. That is where he lives. I am sure if this range were up for consideration on property located near you, you would not want it. Please consider that when you are voting to allow it close to me. Please vote against it. Mr. Redeker also indicated that he had county commissioners who had signed his petition. And if they're going to be voting on it, I just want to ask if you think that's ethical, because I don't. Thank you very much. There are 5 other people who wanted to speak.
Thank you very much. Well, one of the 5, are they in the room?
Nina's going to go.
State your name and address, and you got 2.5 minutes.
If it's okay with y'all, I will take the mask off.
Sure.
Okay. Gentleman and Ms. Cheryl, my name is Nina Kumar. I am a Robertson County native, and my address is 2923 Old Highway 431 South in Springfield, Tennessee. I'm here tonight for a couple reasons. I just want to make a disclaimer. I have a last name that's connected to someone else in this town, and I wouldn't be a good lawyer if I didn't put a disclaimer on the fact that what I say is my opinion and not anybody else that happens to be a physician with my last name in Springfield. So I did want to do that for him, it being an election year and all. With that said, I am here as Ms. Becky's friend, and I'm also here as the regent of the Charlotte Reeves Robertson chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution. And I'm here as an attorney. I think that, to be honest, I'm also a lifetime handgun carrier permit holder. And I took my handgun safety class, the 4 hours in the classroom and the 4 hours on the range at Guns and Leather in Hendersonville prior to doing that. It was a really good father-daughter activity. So I say all that to say that I am staunchly for the Second Amendment, and I could not agree with Mr. Redeker more. I think facilities like this are needed. And I think what we have here is a great need in a wrong place. There is not a single resident that purchased a home or built a home on Hopewell Road that did so with any kind of reasonable expectation as they were planning a safe place to raise a family, raise their children, for children to play outside, that it would be near a gun range. And I note that Mr. Redeker points out that it's just going to be 12 to 4 on Saturday. And even if it's just 12 to 4 on Saturday, that's hours when kids play outside. And I also note that Mr. Redeker is taking a lot of steps that are compliant with Tennessee law, and I applaud that, and I'm glad to see that. But he said himself, it's really my preference out there just to have one person because you don't know them. And I think that's the point. We don't know. We can have all the safety precautions in the world, and when you're in a residential area that is not zoned for this type of activity, we've all seen it takes one person. It takes one person that's not well, one person that's not stable, one child being outside at the wrong place at the wrong time. And I think that there's an important distinction between talking about signage maybe in a zoning meeting that's unattractive and talking about lives at stake. And I really believe that there are lives of residents at stake here. The next point that I would actually
Can you
make,
kind of wrap it up?
yes, sorry, is as a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution, our nation's history is under attack. It's under attack in riots, it's under attack in our communities, it's under attack in our cities, and it doesn't need to be under attack day in and day out with a firing range. We owe our patriots a great deal and a great debt of gratitude, and I think respect dictates not having a gun range on their property. And I thank you very much for your time,
Thank you.
and I appreciate you letting me speak.
Appreciate it. Next. Everybody here, name and address, please.
My name's Jim Woodard. I'm the pastor at Hopewell Baptist Church. I live at 6265 Hopewell Road. I've been out there, been the pastor for 26 years. I've lived at the parsonage across the road from the church for 25 years. And I know the pastor from Bridge Hill Church is also here tonight. And I have three concerns. One is the noise issue. I know how loud guns are. I'm not against guns, but I know how loud they are. And also, I've had a lot of people express to me their concerns about their property values. My third concern is what this might turn into in the future. I know what Mr. Redeker has expressed, but I'm still skeptical that this will not turn into more days of the week, more hours in the week. And I don't know anybody in our church that is in favor of this. I've not talked to a single person. And we do have activities on Saturday too, and it'd be hard to coordinate all that, so.
All right, thank you. Next.
Name and address, please.
All right, my name's Terry Wilson. I'm at 8244 Old Springfield Pike down in Goodlettsville. I am the County Veteran Service Officer Director. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I was asked, and according to the letter, that a veteran or anyone on that street could have someone come in and speak for them. I'm here speaking for Mr. Jack Fisher, World War II Navy veteran, decorated Navy veteran. And he owns property there on Hopewell Road. One thing I would ask the commission to consider is if there are other veterans in the area, if there are veterans that live there, because the sound of weapons, fireworks, as we know, if a veteran has PTSD, that can affect them. And if you really know how things can be affected, and I'm not saying every veteran has any type of mental health issues or anything, but we all know what happened to the American sniper, Chris Kyle. And, you know, things happen. And as a Marine, I understand how those things happen. So one thing I ask is take in consideration for if there's other veterans in the area, find out if there's any, you know, how that's going to affect. Now, I know with the weapons, the decibel rating for hearing, and I deal with a lot of hearing loss claims, damage starts at 140 decibels. A .22 caliber pistol is actually 140 decibels. Now, a large bore weapon can go up to 175 decibels. One of the largest handguns there is out there right now is a 500 Smith & Wesson. That is a 50 caliber pistol that can take down an elephant. And when one was done, they took the round out and it was still 90% intact. So when you're doing the training, and I am a handgun carry person myself, but when you go out to do these, there is no specification as to what you can carry. I've been in the gun shops, I've been in some of the places that sell firearms, and I have heard salespeople tell them, get the biggest one that you feel comfortable with, which is, in my opinion, idiotic. My wife drugged me out of Bass Pro because I told the salesman he was an idiot. Because of that, and this young lady was getting ready to buy a weapon that she didn't know how to control. And so those are things I ask for you to take in consideration. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next.
Tim Black.
Name and address, please.
Name is Timothy Black. Address is 306 Westminster Lane here in Springfield, Tennessee. My concern is he was using a 4-hour block. I have 13 hours of military, okay? My concerns are today, I'm a handgun carrier, okay? And I've been around weapons all my life through the military and out of the military. And if he's had training, ain't no way you can give somebody a weapon, a gun rather, and in 4 hours have them finished and done and them have enough knowledge to handle themselves. That's where danger comes in. That's my concern, because you got so many people now that just want to just grab a gun and think they're ready. No, you're not. So, that 4-hour block is not enough on my concern. And so with it being near and around churches and cemeteries, I don't feel safe. And I know you wouldn't feel safe. And he shouldn't feel safe if he's been through training, because it takes hours. I went through training to be a Green Beret. I failed that. You know why? I didn't have enough then. It takes more than a few hours to be fully trained. And that's what's going on in the world now. People's not fully trained. Officers, okay, not fully trained. Lose it. So we need to reconsider what we're doing. It's a time and a season for everything, okay? I feel like this is not the time and the season for that right there in this location. He said he had other places he could do that. What's wrong with the other places if you got them? Why this place? If there wasn't no cemeteries and churches around in a neighborhood, maybe. You need to find the right place. Thank you.
Thank you.
One other. Stephen Callis.
Hello, my name is Stephen Callis. I live at 6244 Hopewell Road. I live approximately the same distance away to the east as Miss Jernigan, and I just wanted to say that I did hear the shooting over the weekend. We just put a pool in this summer. My family, my 2 daughters, and my wife, we enjoy time outside, and we don't want to listen to 4 hours of gunfire. I've got a concealed carry permit. I know how long those trainings last, and I know that it's not going to last. It's going to last a lot longer. There's going to be a lot more noise than what Mr. Rediker claims. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Your name and address, please.
My hearing aids caught. Okay. My name is Marv Wall. I live at 6365 Hopewell Road here in Springfield. I'm the husband of Becky Wall. One thing that I want to point out, and Becky handed you a piece of paper, a letter from Julie Thorpe. Hopefully you've had time to peruse that. But I want to bring your attention to the fact that her husband, John Thorpe, is a medevac pilot, ambulance helicopter, and he lives on the adjoining property to where Mr. Rediker wants to put in this gun range. He's on a week, off a week. He flies to Lexington, Kentucky, Louisville, Nashville, Vanderbilt, all those places. And many times he's sleeping or working at night and having to come home and sleep during the day. And Saturdays and Sundays are very pivotal for him to get rest, to be able to rescue people. So please bear that in mind, if you will. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Jimmy Payne. I live on 6228 Lincoln Park. And I just got a question. Has he talked to anyone on Lincoln Park as far as asking our concerns? I've lived in the community for 56 years. And I have an uncle who had been in Vietnam and he lost an eye. His name is William Cook. Someone on the board knows him. I have seen him go into a shell around the 4th of July just from the fireworks. I am concerned as a landowner of my grandkids playing outside, or even I'm outside mowing the yard and a stray bullet. Can he guarantee that these what is the age group of the ones that are gonna be shooting?
That'll be adult.
They have to be 21 years of age or older.
21. Is it a guarantee that it would not be a straight bullet coming my way, whether it's shooting into a target or someone turning around shooting in the other direction?
Well, we're just looking for comments now. Don't answer any questions. I appreciate your
Oh, okay,
comments.
but I'm really concerned because I chose to live in that community. I could have moved out from that community, but it's a quiet community, and we'd like to keep it the same.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Is there anyone else?
Not that I know of, I don't know if there's anybody
Now,
else.
is anybody else? Is there
We have
any
this
outside?
many people outside.
Are they included in the number of people that you spoke? So the ones outside are part of the group that you spoke for?
Yes.
Okay, so no one else in here has any more comments? Okay, now, well, I'm not gonna go back, because we're not gonna go back and forth.
Can I just add one thing?
Yes, sir.
We have a very quiet community out there. People get along, and I don't know Mr. Redeker, but I don't have anything against him. But we just don't want a range out there.
Okay, I appreciate it. All righty, I'm gonna bring it back to the board. So any other questions, Mr. Redeker? You have any other comments?
Well, am I allowed to
Sure.
address any of the stuff that
But
was
this
going
is
on?
your time. You
Okay.
filled out the application and you.
Okay, all right. Well, I wanted to make sure, I didn't want to take too long. So regarding some of the Facebook posts, Facebook Lives that I've done, absolutely, I've done some Facebook Live stuff, and I'm a very direct person, and I don't like to take time, beat around the bush, and I just stated the facts. As it is right now, we can go out there on that property, invite anybody we want, and shoot any round that we would like at any open target, regardless of any safe shooting practices. That is what we're allowed to do as of right now, private property owners. With it being state certified, there's all kind of guidelines and regulations that I've got to abide by. I mean, handgun only. Number of people limited. It's got to be a backstop. It's got to be a berm. I mean, the state's not going to certify nothing if they think other property or people are going to be at risk. I mean, because let's face it, their name, their instructor, inspector, whoever, his name's going to be on that. And so if something was to happen, they can be sued just as well as I can or anybody else. But that's why they provide the waivers. In regards to nuisance, Tennessee Range Protection Act protects ranges against nuisance, against noise ordinances. Speaking of the 6-year-old that Ms. Wall was speaking for, I've got a 7 and 11-year-old, and my 11-year-old shoots probably better than I do. So, I understand the safety concern there with the child, and with the neighbors knowing a schedule of when I'm going to be there, I'll make that readily available to them. With any type of instructor-led training, I know a gentleman here at Lincoln Park was concerned about the number of hours, that it took to be out on the range and stuff like that. I'm going by hours the state says. State says 4 hours of classroom, 4 hours of range time is what's required. And that is what we go by. We teach the state curriculum. They have a PowerPoint slide. You go through it, you take the state exam, and you go out and you qualify. Abatement for the permits and everything. I'm aware that we've got to have some lead abatement, stuff done, and I have planned for that. In regards to the cemetery, what we're going to be doing for a stray bullet to hit that cemetery, they would have to be firing almost up in the air and pretty big caliber for it to slow down enough to land in that cemetery. I don't see any difference in what we're doing there for the cemetery than it would be to do either hunting over a cemetery or a 21 gun salute for a veteran. I mean, a gun's a gun. As far as pertaining to the traffic study that was talked about last meeting, again, I thought we was under the impression there was a board meeting that board member that stated that 2 days a month, 5 students at a time really didn't constitute one. Same with the noise study, no noise ordinance. Private, public access, handicap, parking lot. If it's not open to the public, if it's not a commercial range, why would there be need for handicap accessibility? A parking lot, stuff like that. It's not zoned commercially. Liability, I'll be more than happy to provide any liability insurance policy, claim, documentation, whatever the neighbors want for proof of liability insurance. Let's see, plans and expansion, well, we covered that. I'm kind of limited with just the setbacks that you guys require, 300-foot setbacks. I can't really expand any more than 2 lanes wide. And in regards to, back to the expansion, I mean, you guys as the board, if I was to come back to you folks and want to expand, you make those decisions. I mean, that's what you're here for. That's what we're here for tonight. And so that would lie in your laps and your favors there. Letting friends use the range, and I covered that as well. Obviously, you wouldn't give somebody the key to a range that they're not allowed to use, for one, have permission to use, and just like you wouldn't give the keys to your front door to somebody. I mean, that's just common sense. Let's see. Property values. I did speak to the 3 ladies in the tax assessor's office prior to our first meeting, and they said they did not think that it would affect any adjacent properties since it wasn't going to be zoned commercially and used on a daily basis. Let's see. Yeah, so 2 days out of the month limitations. And in regard to Ms. Kumar, she had, and thank you for your input there, Ms. Kumar. One person, it only takes one person to cause an accident. Well, I mean, that's true leaving this parking lot out here. I mean, one person running a red light or stop sign, I mean, that can happen just as easy as a stray bullet over there. I mean, you guys are going to control as far as when it can be used, with the limitations of 2 days a week, with the hours of 12 to 4. As far as Mr. Wilson out of Goodlettsville had mentioned Jack Fisher's property, Mr. Fisher does not live on that property. He does own that property. There is a barn there. He does mow around that barn, but he does not have a house there, and he does not live on that property that touches us. Hearing protection is required. I mean, there's just no way around that. I mean, when it regards to the decibel sounds, I mean that's common sense as well. There are no regulations as far as caliber used in a handgun. However, many of you in here, I'm sure, hunt or sport shoot or whatever. Pretty sure most of you know handgun round doesn't go as far as a 5.56 would or a 30-06. I mean, that's so in regards to the church distance from the proposed range, and this is just a guesstimate, I haven't went out and measured, but it's at least 1/2 to 3/4 of a mile away and the opposite direction, down a hollow, back up a hill to the right. So in regards to the church being in any type of danger, I would have a hard time really seeing that happen. Especially with us shooting in the total opposite direction. And not only that, but into a state certified berm with a 15-foot terrain incline behind that. Let's see. Another question was, why not put it at our other place? Why not, we've got our other areas we can shoot at. Why not put it over there? Well, for number one, we have a lot of cattle over there. All right. I have a lot more neighbors over there. There's a lot more open fields over there. I would rather shoot into a hillside than an open field and hope and pray the bullet hits the berm. At least with the rising terrain in the back, I've got a secondary backstop in case a stray bullet misses the berm, which 23 feet from a 12-foot tall pile of dirt. Now, I'm not saying it can't happen, but I just can't see it happening. There's a lot of concerns with noise and all of that. And, you know, anyone's been up to Cross Plains, to Mr. Terry's handgun range up there. Miss Faye Stubblefield had mentioned as well, the county commissioner. She was pretty close to that. And they shoot all the time up there, day and night. And there is a noise concern, but they're shooting rifles, shotguns. I mean, pretty much anything you can throw down range, they're shooting it. With us just being limited to handguns, there's a lot louder guns that can be shot there than just handguns. And like I said, 5 people at a time, I mean, I don't see it being an issue myself. And once again, as it is right now, there's no regulations as to what caliber we use for sport shooting. Like I said, we can go out in the middle of the field, set a target up, shoot it. We can use rifles, shotguns, pistols. It doesn't matter. We can go out there and shoot all day long and not be in violation of any noise ordinances or anything like that. It wouldn't be the safest thing to do, but it's private property. We can do it. It can be done. I'm just saying, with the state certified pile of dirt, would make things a lot safer for everybody around there, especially with the limitations of 2 days a month. Instead of us having the option right now, we can shoot out there every day if we wanted to. That's it.
All righty, appreciate it. Anybody on the board have any more questions? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion of this request.
You know, I've said from the beginning, I thought that we could probably better protect or best protect the neighbors by, you know, approving with restrictions, but, you know, just in the light of everything, I think I'd make a motion to turn this one down. It would kind of be consistent with the way we've handled private ranges the past time or two.
We have a motion to deny the request. I'm looking for a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to deny. All those in favor say aye. Aye. That the record shows unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim.